Hey there, listeners. This is Terry Cowley, your host of the R.M.Williams Outback podcast. Thanks so much for being here and welcome to Season 3. Beautifully windswept King Island, a flat green oval emerging from Bass Strait about halfway between Victoria and Tasmania, is best known for three things: cheese, golf, and beef. The owners of a new business that makes much of the place's wide open spaces, bracing Roaring Forties, abundant wildlife, and oceanic proximity, wants to add one more: walks. Adam Hely is a former Queenslander who visited the island as a valuer and fell in love with it 8 years ago and moved here. He was in the box seat to see what was missing in the local tourism offering as the owner of King Island Car Rentals. A chance connection with local Ian Allen led to the creation of King Island Walks. Adam joins me now. Hi, Adam.
Hello, Terry. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for your time on the podcast. So maybe we could start by you telling me about your first trip to King Island. What was that like? What were your impressions?
We came over as consultant valuers. My wife Anna and I were both valuers, and came over for the weekend to actually carry out a couple of valuations. And we thought we'd make a weekend of it. Coming from Queensland, we always really associated King Island as a brand, just as a cheese brand. So not really associating it with the island. And when we arrived flew into King Island, and you have this windswept island about 60 kilometres long by 30 kilometres wide. From the first time we landed on there, and then went out about our work and did the valuation, and then started discovering the island. We went to the local races that weekend. We met the local artists. We sampled their cheese. Within a weekend, the community had given us such a warm welcome. We left there, went back, and thought we could live there. So we started researching what was for sale, and found out that the car rental business was for sale. And not being car lovers, so to speak, but we thought, well, it was a business. We thought we'd have a crack, and we went over there and bought it, and learnt the ropes. And I've never regretted the decision at all to move to King Island. In some ways, I wish I'd discovered it 30 years ago. It is a place that just gets hold of you very quickly.
Well, it obviously did, because that is a huge lifestyle change.
Well, it is. My family didn't talk to me for a little while, sort of when I said I was moving to King Island. But when they all visited, they could see what I was talking about, and they fully understood. And now they're regular visitors to the island, and love it as much as I do.
Sounds like it was a number of things kind of coming together. The fact that there was a business for sale, maybe it was a bit of a stage of life thing for you.
No doubt about that. Sort of you hit that stage in life where you think, I need a tree change. And after 30 years of Anna and I having our own business, valuation business in Queensland and New South Wales, I was ready to enter a new chapter in my life, and I didn't know what it was. And it didn't really worry me what that business was, just as long as we were in business together. We worked very well together, and we love spending sort of our time together. So we've got the car rental, we've got a little farm, we've got the walks business now, and sort of it's working well.
So, what was it that really prompted you to want to start a newer business with this walks venture? Like, what was it? You're obviously seeing that there was an opening for that kind of thing.
Well, there was an opening for it. I guess the thing that really sort of made me think that this could work was meeting up with Ian Allen. Now, Ian Allen has got an incredible passion for walking, for showing tourists around the island. So, I get a lot of enjoyment out of setting up businesses. The walking side of it, whilst I enjoy the occasional walk on the island, Ian is a lot more passionate about getting out there and a lot fitter than me. And so between the two of us, we're chalk and cheese. He's a brilliant business partner in that he's just so motivated, and he's got such a passion for it.
You said chalk and cheese. I think I said yin and yang in my story. It is great that you are so, you bring different things to the table, don't you? Which is what you need in a business partnership.
Well, I think so, and it works very well. Now, I guess I bring to the table that I've been in business for some 30 odd years, and I could see the possibilities of it, and with the marketing, so the potential growth on the island. Whilst Ian's got the 30 years of being on the island, been tracking all over it, knows all the routes. Also very good on the first aid, the botany, the shipwrecks, the history of the island. The people that have been going on the walk so far are just wrapped with the information that they get, and going for a walk on a beach that no one's walked on them, before them, sort of for a few weeks or 3 weeks. There's no footprints, and you don't see anyone for 5 or 6 hours while you're trekking around.
And of course, you don't need to tell, well, obviously, you do need to tell me because we're doing a podcast. You don't need to tell me about all that because I was lucky enough to experience it when myself and colleague Neil Newitt came to King Island in February this year. And yes, we had a fair bit of trouble keeping up with Ian. He is a very fit man, as you say. But one of the things I did mention in my story, you sort of have to mention it if you're talking about King Island, is of course King Island Dairy, because that has been in the news so much of late. And when we were visiting, there was that concern that the dairy, which is really very much kind of the best known brand, I suppose, of King Island, was going to close. But that has since had a positive outcome. And I think I saw you in the media actually commenting on that. So can you bring us up to speed on what's happening with the dairy?
Look, there was no doubt that there was grave concerns going through the island, because it is very much a mainstay of our King Island brand, the cheese that we've been producing for the last 100 years. Over the last number of years, the dairy itself has been in corporate hands. So I think the King Islanders felt as if they'd lost a lot of the input and control of the dairy. Now we've got it going into Australian hands, and we've also got it going to two guys that have been in the sort of are involved in the dairy industry in Queensland, and that have been very successful in other businesses. I think that it's going to be a tremendous plus for the island to have Nick and Graham involved in the new King Island 2 venture.
And of course, it's an important employer, isn't it?
Yep, there's 90 odd people that work in the dairy, and so it's an important employer of the island. And sort of we do produce some of the best cheese in Australia, I believe. When I was in Brisbane, if we were having a special dinner party, we would get King Island cheese. And now actually living on the island and seeing the conditions it's produced under, and the environment, the cattle, you can understand how come that cheese is so good. And on top of that, the tremendous cheesemakers we've got on the island that pull it all together.
On top of that, I guess it's just always keeping, the seeing King Island Dairy in your Coles or your Woolworths or wherever. It's very much kind of reminding people of the island all the time, isn't it?
It is, and then so you've got the picture on there of the sort of the sailing ship, which is very much part of our history here, with being some of the most prolific sort of shipwrecks that have ever happened in Australia have been off our island. And you've got to realise that King Island is and will be a primary production island. With our, the beef we produce, we have 25% of the Tasmanian beef herd on the island. We've got the sort of the iconic King Island cheese. We've also got one of the largest crayfish fleets based here in King Island of Tasmania. We've got a thriving kelp industry. We've got the Shearlight mine, and we've got the best golf course rated in Australia. And then we've got our local course that's the best nine-hole golf course, rated the best nine-hole golf course in Australia. So all these things that we have for such a small community of 1,600 people is mind blowing.
Yeah, so that's a lot of sort of options for a small population, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Well, you've been over here, so you can see the person serving you at the bakery in the morning can also be serving you the beer at the hotel at night. A lot of the people over here have 2 or 3 jobs, and everyone just puts in. We've got virtually no unemployment on the island. It's very much a community-based island where we've got volunteer ambulance, volunteer fire brigade, volunteer at our local golf course. Volunteers, sort of are integral to the fabric of King Island.
Yeah, you sort of get the impression that everyone's rowing in the same direction and realizes like we can make this community as good as or as bad as we want it to be. Like it's really up to it's really up to us, and you can actually have that impact in a small place like that.
Well, and yes, and you see it so strongly in our island. And our island, in some ways, it's like going back 50 years. Everyone leaves their cars unlocked. A caption for our island should be the way life should be. We've got everyone helps each other out. And, the island's so generous. At the moment, it's apple season. So we've got a few farmers that have got a heap of apple trees. And so, you turn up to work and all of a sudden you find a box of apples on your counter. And so it's a bit like with the fishermen when they've got some spare crays and everyone is just so generous on the island. It's incredible.
One of the things that surprised me when I was there is the island tends more towards Victoria than Tasmania, because you're sort of in the middle there, aren't you, in Bass Strait?
Well, probably when you look at our majority of tourists are coming through from Melbourne, but all our services and workers are coming through from Tasmania. So we have a sort of a close relationship with the sort of the government services and a lot of professional services that are coming out of Tasmania that we use. So it's a happy compromise of the both. So it was the dairy that Jeremy Rockcliffe got a group together and said we're not going to see this dairy close on his watch.
That's the Tasmanian Premier.
That's the Tasmanian Premier. And sort of he came over, organised it, and made sure that they found a buyer for that dairy, which he realised it was a very important thing for our island. So, Tasmania, and even in the bigger form, still a large family where they're all looking out for each other.
Yeah, but I was just surprised that you couldn't fly from the island to Hobart, for example, but you can very easily fly to Essendon.
No, it's funny. The easiest way to fly to Hobart is to fly out of state to Melbourne and then from Melbourne to Hobart. And there's always going to be some downside on living on an island. We are remote in some ways, but when you look at it, virtually 100 kilometres from Victoria and 100 kilometres from Tasmania. But I guess that helps create the mystique and the charm of the place, that it is a little bit more difficult. You easily bear that with all the upside.
It's worth it. You obviously think it's worth it.
Very much so.
There are challenges, like you might have to go off island for certain healthcare or whatever, but it also creates opportunities, as you've seen with your businesses.
Oh, true. Anyone can, I believe, make it on King Island. If you want to come over here and put the hard work in, the rewards are there, and there's opportunities for any type of business. If you want to come over, I think that the guy that been polishing all the timber floors on the island, he's just retired. So there's a business that if someone wanted to come over here, plenty of work and opportunity. Painting, anything you want to come over and have a crack at. Mechanics we're short of. I know that the bakery is looking for another baker. So yeah, if you want to have a crack in life and you've got a good work ethic, come on over. We'll open arms. We'll accept you.
Yeah. So talking about some of the, I guess, tourist spots, some of the things that we experienced when we came over, the Curry Lighthouse, like it's got that, beautiful views obviously, but it's got that real history. There is amazing historic tales behind so many of the monuments and places on King Island.
Oh, that's right. So many people enjoy that story about the lighthouse, and it's quite a daunting, spiral staircase to get up the top, and then you open up into the view, and you can feel that lighthouse moving and creaking and groaning when you go there. And that lighthouse itself is as if it's trying to tell you a story. I think Ian does that so well when he's sort of talking about the construction of the lighthouse and the lighthouse keepers and the role they used to play and the lens and all that is intriguing for our visitors that are coming over.
And of course, the lighthouse overlooks King Island Boathouse, which is an incredible story in itself, Adam.
Yeah, no, look, the boathouse, we're so proud of that. So the boathouse is the restaurant with no food or drink or service. So it's open to everyone. So, the locals, we all use it for gatherings to meet at the boathouse and get together for a drink and a feed. But it's lovely that the visitors all can come to sort of the bakery, grab their coffee, grab their rolls, come down and sit on this magnificent boathouse that is sort of it's eclectic, it's weird, it's just charming, and it's got the best views in town. Set up by a lady that just had this vision going, you know, let's open up this little shack here for everyone.
And she's artistically decorated it. And it is weird, as you say, but in a good way, with everything from, Barbies dressed in kelp dresses to whimsical art on the walls, and you got the old record player. Basically, the door's always open, literally, isn't it?
It is. And the thing is, it works. Now, if I tried to do something like that, it would just look ugly. Whilst Caroline has thrown all this together and she's got the knack that it just looks so cool. And so I think it'd probably be the most photographed building or, sort of area on the island, our boathouse. And, she just got it, done up with the most, amazing colours, and it's bright, it's cheerful. And it really is, in some ways, sort of a great example of what the island's about.
And of course, we haven't mentioned the wildlife, which is an integral part of the walks business. I think the first walk that we did with Ian was down to the river to go platypus spotting. It was momentary, but we saw a few platypus backs or tails or bits, whatever they were. But I think that's pretty indicative of a beautiful environment where you can see wild platypuses frolicking.
Well, he's had a 100% success rate so far, and that is amazing. So when I first went down there, you're sort of hesitant to believe, sort of that we're going to see a platypus. And then you go down there, and then all of a sudden you see them surface. And sometimes people are fortunate they're very close. Other times, they're a bit further away. But when we were down there, we saw 5 separate platypuses in different areas, and that to me is quite amazing because there's a lot of people that'll go through their life with never sighting one.
Absolutely. And of course, most people are struggling down, through the bushes, sort of a rickety track down to the river, and Ian striding on ahead, and then, of course, produces all these beautiful, not surprisingly, cheeses and wines and various other gourmet bits and pieces for people on the walk, which is a very nice touch because, of course, you're going down to see the platypus towards sunset. And yes, it's a very nice thing to partake of, I must say.
I'm struggling to get down there without anything. He goes down there with the backpack full of wines and cheese and enjoy.
Yeah,
He's remarkable.
very fit man.
So then he loves to give that, surprise on these trips. And people do love it after the walk while watching the platypus or the penguins to turn around and all of a sudden they see this little table of cheeses and a wine and that, and just to sit back and relax. And
Very civilized.
yeah, it's lovely.
And of course, talking about wildlife, one of the other experiences that we had was with the little penguins down at Grassy Harbour.
Yeah.
I mean, we had been told we'll go down and see the penguins, but I had not expected to see that many penguins. Like there's hundreds and hundreds, isn't there, that come ashore at sunset.
Well, what's also amazing is that, sort of you go to other places and there's thousands of visitors and you'll see, sort of 10 penguins. Whilst in our location here, you're lucky to see 5 visitors and you'll see, sort of a procession of penguins that goes on for hours. And so Ian also does this thing where he sets people up, he'll give them a barbecue and a wine and sort of start doing it on dusk and people are going to go, oh, where do we go to see the penguins? Then, sort of 15 minutes later, they hear a little bit of a squawk and then these penguins just waddling up the road. They're so sweet and cute, these penguins, and they just keep on coming. It's brilliant.
I actually grabbed some audio of the penguins, which I'll play now. Yeah, you see the cars kind of pulling out in a car park, dodging them.
Yeah. I love the signs where you say, "Please look under the sort of the cars in case there's been a penguin." The previous owners of our business were cleaning a car one day in the shed, and they could hear some squawking. And they've looked under there, and there was a penguin caught up under the car, so they were able to get it out unharmed. And but they had to drive over to Curry to drop it back over there. But yeah, we do get hitchhikers.
And of course, they're coming in from the sea to roost for the night. So, they're kind of everywhere in the rocks around the harbour after dark, aren't they?
That's right. So they've been all day out there feeding, and then they come back and sort of try and find their nest that they got with the chicks there. That at about that time you can hear the chicks all crying out for their mum, going, "I'm getting hungry." And it's amazing when you have a look at it. You think, "Wow, with the mutton birds, the penguin colonies, how the island is just got so much wildlife that a lot of it you don't see. It's until it comes to dusk, and all of a sudden that area becomes alive."
And of course, you're practically tripping over wallabies, aren't you?
Well, we have got a lot of wallabies. Yes, the farmers and sort of the car hire people don't warn that much of the wallabies because they create a fair amount of damage. But they're beautiful little wallabies that when you go through Grassy and they're just all jumping through the yards, and again, so the visitors come over and think that's quite amazing.
And the other thing I hadn't expected were the turkeys. Like, we're not talking about the brush turkeys we are accustomed to in the bush on the mainland. We're talking about full-on American turkeys, aren't we?
Well, that's right, and they're pure because they haven't been, sort of interbreeding with other birds. They're just the most purest form of turkeys. And you're right. So when people come over and say, "Oh, watch out for the turkeys," they look at you a bit strangely because what are you talking about? And then all of a sudden they'll see a group of 20 turkeys, then they'll go another K and they'll see another 10, and so they're everywhere. And then we have in the same with the amount of peacocks. So at night, with the peacocks calling and then the turkeys making, there's a lot of wildlife noise going on.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's one of the big drivers of tourism, isn't it? People, certainly international tourists, they love to see, well, obviously turkey's not native, but the other native animals. I mean, that's just very special, isn't it? I mean, not just for international tourists, but any tourist.
And also knowing that you're going to see them. You're guaranteed to see these animals. And you can discover the island by yourself or with the help of, like our tour firm. But, it's a great place to come over and just, sort of spend 2 days, spend a week, and just become part of the island life and absorb what we've got.
One of the things that a little stereotype, I suppose, I had in my mind before I came there was that it was going to be very windswept, and indeed, of course, it is. But I got some quotes from you about how you felt about the island from my article, which is in, by the way, issue 161 of Outback. You said the wild weather makes you feel alive.
I find it does. Sort of, it's invigorating. Some days you go out there and that wind is blowing so hard and the rain is coming sideways. It like slaps you in the face and says, "Look at this." How good is this? Embrace it. I'm built for the cold, and so it's perfect for me. And I do. I love it. You walk along our coastline and you see it. The sea coming up, the wind, and the best way to describe it is so raw. Our coastline is just so raw. And untouched, and you can stand there and just imagine the dramas that the sailing ships in the past must have had navigating around these areas, and sort of how bold and adventurous the people were back in that time and what they had to do.
Yeah, and I guess you discover all this on your various walks, and there's different kinds of walks you can do. Some are, I guess more rigorous than others. As you said earlier, it's just beautiful to walk along the beach, pristine white sand, and as you say, there's no other footsteps. So discovering that history when you're on the walks.
Well, there's something like 400 shipwrecks around the island. Wherever we take you, there's going to be a story. So whether it's the Netherby, the British Admiral, the Arrow, there's a plethora of of stories. So we've got so much information to sort of impart on visitors, and then we've got the whole history of the sealing days, and then we've got the fishermen, the abalone divers, the kelp collectors. The walks will go past the kelp area, and all these different industries and adventures and tragedies of the shipwrecks all lead into such an interesting war, being just fed all this information on the way around. And then you're looking at a sparsely inhabited island, and you think, wow, there's a lot going on here.
So the Kataraki,
Yep,
that in particular, that story, can you illuminate that a bit? Where he takes you to the memorial, the bell off the ship, I think it is. You look out and it's not far out at all where all these people perished, like more than 400. And of course, like, they were coming from, I think, England. They probably couldn't swim.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. A lot of people back in that day didn't know how to swim. Yeah, and also they're wearing really heavy, sort of gear. So the old wool, as soon as they got into the ocean, all their clothes would have been so heavy, and not knowing how to swim, so they're trying to grab to float some or the ropes, and you could have, with all those shipping too, the amount of ropes that would have tangled up in them trying to get to shore. So. And then on top of that, you've got some huge storm rolling in that you've got these breakers coming over jagged rocks that would have made it just terrifying for these people.
Well, all the best with your continued success with your walks business and your other adventures. Adam, any other interesting or diverse or exciting plans on the
Well,
island?
yes, we've got Ocean Dunes, which is one of the golf courses over here, is in the process of building 60 accommodation units, and they're going up like nobody's business. They will be ready by Christmas, so it's going to just create a new whole level of experience on the island. And one of the guys behind it is Phil, who's got Pure South Dining over in Melbourne. So there's going to be a smashing restaurant over here at Ocean Dunes, which, sort of we've already got great restaurants over here with Wild Harvest, Oleander, Legs, and so it's just, sort of increasing the experience for the traveller. But we will be able to cater now for a bit more upmarket for the golfers coming over. And Wickham's got 16 units up there, which are beautiful units overlooking Victoria Cove. And they've been doing work on their restaurant up there. So the islands, it is a buzz, especially after the new owners coming in with the dairy and looking at new options they're going to be doing there. So who knows? We might get the King Island cream back, or yogurt, maybe even milk. So it's just, no, life is good over here, and it feels so positive.
So I might just finish off with, I mean, I know we have really covered about your love of the island, and you touched on it a little bit, saying it's of course it's a beautiful environment, but it's the people. I mean, I think any community, it really is always the people that really make it, don't they?
So true. You can be in the most beautiful, beautiful environment, and if you don't have a lovely community around you, it's not the place you want to live. So our place is so beautiful because of the people, and that's the reason I wanted to be living there. After a weekend, is you get embraced by this community. They welcome you so quickly, and they are an extraordinarily hard-working group of people. And honestly, it is a privilege to call King Island home.
Well, we wish you and the rest of King Island all the best, Adam. And it was great to revisit King Island, if only in my mind.
Terry, you will come back. You know that you're very welcome to come back. So you just come back on a holiday. So we're expecting you to come back.
I would love to. That's very nice. Thank you. And just to remind anyone who's listening that the story on King Island, my story, in fact, is in issue 161 of Outback Magazine. You can get that from most newsagents or directly from us. If you want more information, just go to www.outbackmag.com.au. And of course, you can look up King Island and King Island walks on the internet fairly easily if you'd like more information about that. I should let you go, Adam, because I know you need to go golfing. It's a hard life, isn't it?
It certainly is. It certainly is. So, yes, I'm hoping to hit them straight, and I'm hoping the wind doesn't pop up this afternoon.
Thanks so much, Adam. Take care.
Oh, Terry, thank you. Lovely seeing you again.